Hello, and welcome to Jenny Eats the World. My name is Jenny, and I'm here to rock your world. In a world where critical thinking is becoming extinct, I'm here to question what we've been told and what we see, to tap within and ask myself, is this what I truly believe? So, on this episode, I'll be wearing my cool girl glasses because we'll be throwing some shade on the bullies, the trolls, the incels that make us question our worth. Today's topic is about how to deflect those harmful comments and what it means to truly know who you are and to stand in your power. This episode has been brought to you by the incels who have been blowing up my new YouTube channel. Thank you. Honestly, thank you. I just started 4 days ago, and because you were so enraged about a woman talking about her singlehood, you have searched me and you have found me and you're after me. And it's funny, like I'm reading some of the comments and then some I'm like, wow, this is a lot of anger. This is a lot of hate. And as much as I have to take some responsibility, I say some absurd things on these episodes, but I'm also speaking my truth. And I'm realizing very quickly that a bright light is going to shine across many. And some of those people might be blinded by your light. I was reminded today that when it comes to light and darkness, you shine a flashlight in a dark, empty room, the light will always take over the darkness. You cannot allow darkness to take over light. You can block your hand in front of the light and cast a shadow, but that still does not defeat the light. So, with that in mind, know that the person I'm about to talk to is someone that I still hold very high in my heart. But 5 days ago, I was let go unannounced based on a personality call. Now, it was hard to not take this personally because I can't think of any other reason why I was fired because it had nothing to do with the job or my competency at it. But because I was simply being me, taking up space, I challenged someone else in control. And I want to see my part, but I also know earnestly that I did my best to do my job and be in service throughout this whole fiasco that was the catalyst to the end. And while it would be so easy for me to make my ex employer the villain, to make them the bad guy, I just can't. They've given me so much. And I know that this is an emotional reaction and an impulsive decision. And when people have these reactions, it's caused from an emotional wound. So I don't blame my ex employer because they're very upset right now. They're very hurt. I think they're at a loss in words of what they want. And when I couldn't give them something that they couldn't ask for, things went dark. So, to cast a light on what's been going on or how you can create some levity around a heavy situation is to remind yourself that whoever has caused any friction in your life is simply just a mirror of you. And that can be a hard pill to swallow. I actually really despise hearing this when it comes to people that grind my gears, that crawl in my skin. Like, why would I attract someone in my life that is either mean to me or is absolutely indifferent to me? Why would I attract that in my life? Why would I want people who wouldn't treat me well in my life? Well, sweetie, when we realize that everyone really is just a mere reflection of facets of ourselves, we can instantly start to have some compassion for both parties. And maybe I say that as if it's so easy because it's not. If there's someone in your life, let's say an authority figure, maybe they're not in your life anymore, but they were really hard on you. They were really mean to you. They pushed you around. They tried to kick you down. It's hard to ask yourself, well, why would I do that to myself? Why would I create a world where people are putting me in a box and trying to keep me small? I think what's the unfortunate truth of this is that there are some subconscious beliefs that you may hold that feel like you deserve this, that feel like this is justified. I'm not trying to bypass any trauma, and I'm really not equipped to speak about when things get really sour, but your friends, your colleagues, the teachers you've had in your life, there's always going to be some conflict. That's just part of the human existence. But when you can start to see every time you get triggered by others and then really dig deep into where that's coming from, it's never coming from the other side. It's always coming from you. For example, something I've realized after writing my memoir, Jenny Eats the World, available on Amazon, is that I've attracted a lot of authority figures in my life who have verbally abused me. I've had almost every boss from when I first started working end up in some type of verbal feud, and yet I have never yelled back. But I used to think it was because, oh, he was South African. That's just how they are. And then, oh, it's because she's Italian. That's just how they are. But ultimately, I had to realize that I was attracting this over and over and over again, where things seem so great in the beginning. And then I feel like I'm walking on eggshells. And then one little straw breaks the camel's back, and I see everything falling through the cracks. That's exactly what happened this past week. I did not see it coming, but there was absolutely a buildup. So, taking accountability for these authority figures in my life, I really have tried to wonder why it is that I have so many people yelling at me. Because even though I'm a loud person, I don't yell at people. I'm pretty self possessed when it comes to my anger. Now, when it comes to emotions and crying and sorrow and happy tears of joy, those come out much more easily and maybe sometimes more than I would want to. But when it comes to anger, of course, it can manifest into other facets that don't look like having an adult temper tantrum. Sometimes anger can manifest as depression. Sometimes anger can manifest as completely shutting down. So, what I started to realize is that even though I don't yell very often at other people, I can't think of the last time I raised my voice when I was angry. But when I think about the ways that I've spoken to myself all my life, especially around food, especially around shopping for clothes and looking at my body in the mirror, now those were moments where my mind was screaming. And so I've drawn a correlation between me yelling at myself, being so cruel to myself, treating myself like I didn't deserve to be alive, had rippled effects out into the ether, which attracted people who then treated me poorly. And I don't want to throw anyone under the bus. Again, all of my past employers, it started off pretty good for the most part. But there has been one too many instances where things just blow up at the very end. And when we see these patterns of behaviors, we cannot keep pointing fingers. So, one way that I'm trying to work with this, trying to mitigate the explosion that happens between me and my authority figures, is by truly trying to see my authority figures, my employers, my bosses as my teachers. Let's say you have a really cruel boss. How can you see them as your teacher? Even if they have never shown you anything of any dignity, there's still something there. Let's take that lack of dignity, for example, and see that maybe this person's in your life to show you the importance of how to treat others. If they have never shown humans any kind of dignity, first ask yourself, is that true? Like, are they really that cruel? Have they really never shown any sliver of decency? Huh, if that's true, then how did they get this job? Like, do you work at that corrupt of a company? No. Start looking for examples of the opposite of whatever you're judging them for. So if you think that your boss is a terrible communicator, how can you see that they're doing their best? How can you see every email, every text message as them communicating, thus working on their communication skills? I know it seems nitty gritty and it might seem ridiculous at first, but when you start to really question if this person is as bad as I've made them in my mind to be, and you start looking for proof of their light, you're going to start to see it. One of the best ways that we can change a relationship in our lives is by looking at this person as your mother. And maybe you have an estranged relationship with your mother. So maybe you look at this person as your dog. However, you can mold them into this being of love and light, as woo woo as that is, it really does help. I've mentioned this on another episode, but the way that I found my most recent employer was because 2 employers ago, I could not go to work without talking shit about my GM. Whether I was talking shit to my other coworkers or I was just talking shit in my head, I realized that me being so negative around my GM was absolutely not creating an energy where we could be cohesive and copacetic in the work setting. So what I did was I was just very cordial with her in real life. But then in my mind, I started having conversations with her, just like, what's up? How are you doing? You look so cute. And it's not that she became nicer to me, but she also wasn't mean to me again. The magic that happened after this little experiment was that while working at that location, I then found my new employer. Did that job work out? I guess not, but we spent a beautiful year together growing a business. I've had so many wonderful moments with this person, and I will always cherish them high in my heart. So you might be listening to this and being like, okay, but there's a bully in my life that is actually cruel and threatening to me. So this is where discernment comes in. We have to know when we are working with these modalities of the little mind tricks of how we can see someone differently, but we also need to know when we might be in danger. Now, if you have someone in your life that is actually a risk, then you might need to take more extreme measures and you might need to bring in more people into this situation. But I'm here to talk about the people that come across your life in and out and just seem like they always want to bring you down. The most important thing to remember is that hurt people hurt people. Why would anyone who's enjoying their life or loves who they are be cruel to another being? It just doesn't make sense. That's why we got to look out for the kids who kick puppies, okay? You just don't harm someone if you are at peace inside. They don't go hand in hand. So when dealing with a bully, the first thing we must do is try to show some compassion and some empathy for the pain that they are inevitably dealing with. I think the next biggest thing to remember is that bullies are narcissistic. I'm not saying that they are narcissists, but they are narcissistic. Why else would they try to gain power by bringing others down? The quickest way to cut off the feeding source of a narcissist is to not give them any attention. They feed off attention and the thrill of watching your reaction. So, what you must do the next time anyone tries to rile you up, you've just got to look at them like a little bunny that can't feed itself, and you are just going to nurture it with your loving eyes and smile. Because your bully is trying to get into your core. They are trying to grind your gears. So if you can be so self possessed and just let it brush right off, I promise you, they're going to walk away and think, what the fuck? And they're less likely to keep doing this over and over and over again. Same thing goes with the internet. Just don't engage. I mean, listen, I'm really grateful that one of my videos talking about being single has attracted so many incels, and I have the highest view count on anything I've ever made thus far. And while that engagement is awesome, I just can't engage with some of the comments, but they are hilarious to skim through. And maybe that's another tip is like, how can you see the humor in it? How can you just laugh at the fact that someone is spending so much energy trying to bring you down? Like, that's a pretty sad way to live your life. And maybe an attitude of dismissiveness couldn't hurt either when dealing with people who want to piss you off. And maybe a lot of people in my life have written me off as being dismissive, and I'm okay with that. And is it a protection mechanism? Absolutely. But on the other side of my dismissiveness, I do care. I care about the people in my life. I care about the strangers on the streets. I care about you listening to this because I want to provide you with tools so you can strengthen the sense of who you are and not be so flustered when some Joe Schmo on the internet tries to tell you that you're mid. You know what? None of them have called me ugly yet. They just said I'm mid, and I'm pretty okay with that. So, step one, see your bully as something other than your bully, whether someone you love, or maybe a furry animal, or better yet, imagine your bully as a baby, helpless, and unable to wipe their own ass. Because all of us have been in that position at some point of the dawn of this life. So this vision is actually true. It's a true vision. At one point, they were helpless. And just imagine that that helplessness is probably still within them. And that's why they are trying to gain power through their tactics. Step two, have some sympathy. See them as something other than as bully, and then have some sympathy for their pain. Step three, take some deep breaths, feel your feet on the ground, and remember that what they're saying has nothing to do with you. It's all a projection of their internal angst. And step four, which actually is the foundation that you should be practicing before any of these steps, which is to do this introspective work. When you know who you are, it's really hard for other people to tell you so. Someone's going to tell me that I'm too much, but I just am who I is. Like, that's not going to bother me. If I've done so much work around my body image and my body dysmorphia, and I've really learned to love myself despite what I look like, I'm not going to care about your comments about my appearance. It's as simple as that. Does this mean we'll never get hurt by someone's words? No. But doing self introspective work allows you to really discover what makes you you and creates a blueprint for navigating the tough times so that anytime you are found in a position where you are feeling verbally defeated, you can redirect yourself back to the core of who you are and remember that that essence is pure and beautiful and full of love. Love thyself, love thy neighbor. Don't let yourself get too down in the dumps about your bully. One other thing you can do if you feel like you are obsessing about your bully or if you are spiraling out and you can't stop thinking about all the ways that other people have wronged you is to help others. And this can look as simple as going over to a friend's or a family member's house and offering to make them dinner and clean up. or it can be as simple as calling someone you know is going through a tough time. If what you're experiencing is verbal abuse, then the flip side of that verbal abuse is words of affirmation. So, how can you spread more love through what you say, through how you act, and see how that is going to come back? I'm sorry to anyone who's ever been wrongfully ridiculed. And while I have been bullied in the past, I know that I haven't endured so much of what other people have. And I really do feel for you. And I really hope that this episode helps you to realize that these bullies are just hurt and that you don't have to hold their words as true. Figure out who you are and fall in love with that person, and it will be so difficult for anyone to make you think or feel differently about yourself. My name is Jennifer Martin, but you can call me Jenny. I'm no expert, I'm no doctor. I'm just a girl from Kansas who's been around the world and has a lot of stories to tell and hopefully lessons to share. If you've gained anything from this episode, please let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Reach out, let me know how I can help. Because really, the bullies are just lonely, and we could all use some more deep friends. Thank you for being my friend. This has been Jenny Eats the World. Until soon, I love you, and I really mean it.